Hi, welcome everybody to the Agency Operators Podcast. My name is Pasha. Here today, I'm joined by Hristo Arakliev of Hyperzone. How are you doing, Hristo?
Hey, very good, Pasha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with a fellow Amazon agency owner. This is going to be a fun conversation. I think before we went live, we were chatting a little bit. You kind of mentioned that you're helping a lot on the side of existing websites, existing DTC brands who they're not really doing much on Amazon. They don't really exist there, or they're just kind of struggling to get anywhere once they've already launched. Maybe they've syndicated some content over. I see that kind of stuff a lot, where they just kind of exist there, but they're just like, all right, what do we do to take the next level? So very cool approach. But Hristo, before we dive into the meat and potatoes, I wanted to just ask a little bit about your story. I checked out your
Sure.
LinkedIn file. You have a really interesting background with lots of different positions and work experience that kind of led you to be the CEO of Hyperzone. So as far back as you'd like, just kind of tell your story.
Well, yeah, I've been in e-commerce since 2016, so it's becoming 8 years already. I started in direct marketing, but a year after, I had a friend. He was doing Amazon FBA, and it sounded really interesting to me. He was sending his products to Amazon, ordering them from China, and this and that. And I started reading about it, listening to lots of podcasts, and getting interested in it. And at some point, I was like, okay, so you're really good at selling these products. Uh, let's do something together. So we joined forces. We launched a couple of brands, and then a little bit down the road, we actually split. And then I met my current partners, and we were like, okay, guys, let's launch brands, but at the same time, we already have so much knowledge. Why not help other brands do it? They're like, okay, that makes sense. Let's see if we can do something about it. And we started with the very, I'd say, naive and super positive idea that we can actually help brands from Eastern Europe like launch on the big US market and
Mhm.
succeed. But unfortunately, that didn't work out very well. And then we had to go out and position ourselves as a leader for the US market. And that's what we did. We started going to high ticket events, we started going to big events, we started speaking at events, etc. And because our services are really superior to many other services out there. Right now, we have clients that have been with us for 5 years already, so our churn rate is really low. People are super happy with us. They recommend us, and word of mouth is still our best channel, as we really, really care and strive to provide really good service. And there is no difference on how we do things for our own brands and how we do it for clients. I mean, we do it exactly the same way, and we care as much. So I think this is the root of our success so far.
Very cool. So the agency is sort of it started out as this engine behind your own portfolio, and then you're just like, all right, well, we already have this engine. We can take on more while these things grow, right? So we can just speak to other people and get that exposure.
Absolutely. And we become more of a partner whenever we work with someone because we work with rev share. And
Mm.
this is motivating us because the more money we make our clients, the more money we make. And everybody's happy at the end of the day because, like you mentioned, our clients are actually D2C brands that are like crushing it, driving traffic to their website. Doesn't matter if they're using Meta or like Google or Instagram or influencers, but they are fairly popular, you know. And then we take them and we're like, okay, have you thought about Amazon? And many of them hadn't, and like we just expand them to Amazon and get the same success they're having on their website. But what happens is kind of an avalanche effect because we don't just double their revenue, because like 10 months from when we start working together, they're already making twice the revenue on their website, and they're making the same revenue on Amazon. So this means that we've could quadruple their revenue. Because what happens is with the multi-channel strategy, people see you here and there. They see an ad, they see you on Amazon, and this affects them. So they start thinking that you are a popular brand, and they feel much more comfortable buying your products. So actually, for many of our products, the sole reason for them to move to Amazon, not move but expand to Amazon, is because this is helping with trust issues with their clients, and down the road is helping to exit the brand for a better multiplier. Because right now, all of these aggregators, they are asking if you have an Amazon store and how developed this Amazon store is, and then your multiplier depends on that. So I'd say it's becoming a very, very important channel for all of these D2C brands that, were neglecting it before.
So for a brand that's actually starting out from the beginning, what would you say is more important, to start with a D2C presence and then expand into Amazon? Or is it better to actually start on Amazon, test the waters, build up a little bit of awareness, and then start to work on your website and your social channels?
Well, that's a great question. I would say, as a rule of thumb, that for 90% of the brands, it's actually better to start on your own website because it's cheaper, to be honest, because you can run traffic for whatever you like and you're going to see how people react to it. If they're actually interested, and it's much easier to test it out, see if it works, see if it doesn't change the product the other day, until we figure it out. Because when you start working with Amazon, you need to send inventory, you need to get engaged with Amazon. They're constantly, suspending your listings or your accounts, or asking you like 1,000 different questions. And at the end of the day, you are not only not making money, you're barely selling anything because you have to deal with all of that administration. And it's just not as straightforward as people think it is. I believe it should be, but it's definitely not. Amazon are making things uh, harder and harder each day. They're like bringing a barrier between themselves and the sellers. Only the end client is important. They really don't care about the sellers. They have so many of them. And right now, the process of even applying to open an account on Amazon is much more complicated than before. They ask you tons of questions. Everything needs to be like super strict on how you provide information. And I'd say that starting on your own website is much easier in most cases. The only, case where it could work on Amazon, but it's actually going to work on your website as well, is if you are selling a trendy product. So if you're there right when the trend is starting, people are going to buy your product because it's trendy. Because if you would like to popularize your brand on Amazon, that's not going to happen. You can popularize your brand through social media, and then getting that popularity, you can move to Amazon. It's going to be much easier for you to make big sales on Amazon when people already know your brand, because Amazon loves that outside traffic. Even if you're getting like 5 or 10% of the people that you're driving to your website go and check your product on Amazon, this is tremendously helping your rankings on Amazon. Because no matter what people think, there's always the percentage of people which are not going to purchase your product from your website because they have trust issues. But they are going to purchase it from Amazon because they believe the platform and they know they can get their money back. They have a Prime account, they know they're going to get it the same day or the day after. So it's a much easier choice for them. And you're missing out on all of these people if you're not on Amazon, basically. I know brands, and I start working with brands which are already doing 10, 20 million a year, and they're not on Amazon. And as soon as they get on
Crazy.
Amazon, the sales start rolling for them. And if they're 5, 10% of the revenue they're doing on their website, okay, first of all, it's free sales for them. And then when you get that initial traffic, it's a push enough to actually help you get to 50, 60, 80, 100% of what you're doing on your website with, the right approach and tactics.
I love it. I mean, I think that's such a great model where if you're already doing so well on Shopify or just somewhere else, there's definitely a bunch of people that are taking whatever scraps are left over on the table, right? Like there's crumbs laying around that you're not picking up. And with scale, that those crumbs become bigger and bigger. So I can
Absolutely.
totally see that. Like the moment that they kind of take over that channel, they kick off the unauthorized sellers, they get a hold of their listing content and make it as best as possible, get the advertising lined up. I mean, it's just, it's pretty straightforward at that point. And then there's just so
Absolutely.
much, like you said, there's that effect backwards where now you're getting additional attention through Amazon, maybe DSP, and that goes back onto their website. And there's this kind of like reciprocal effect.
Yeah. And then you know, you just grow it from there. It's amazing,
Yeah.
creating new channels. By the way, DSP, happy you mentioned it. Unpopular opinion, but DSP is not what it looks like. So,
Mm.
that DSP is attributing your sales based on impressions. But basically, even if you see an ad for your product for 1 second, no matter where you saw it, DSP is attributing that sale to Amazon DSP. And this is not the correct way to measure that. We've actually run tests multiple times. And for one of our clients, he was running like very big volumes. And we stopped their DSP for 2 weeks straight. Their revenue didn't change at all,
Mm.
like didn't move. With 1%, 5%, nothing changed. So this means that Amazon is attributing sales that don't belong to Amazon DSP.
It's true. But I think that it also matters the circumstance of the account, the campaigns. I think there's some testing that needs to be done. It's hard to say that DSP is not useful for anybody,
No,
but
absolutely.
I will
I
say, yeah,
agree.
I've had this similar type of experience where I we launched DSP for an account and then we had to shut it down. And that's
Mhm.
happened probably more times than we said, let's do DSP and let's keep it running. But the time that we do keep it running, that's because we really are seeing increases in average order value. We're trying to leverage now more and more AMC. This year has been a big year for AMC and what that can do for us. So looking at, how is DSP actually affecting lifetime value? And also just like the cost of acquisition, you can just kind of look at all these different metrics and say, okay, I think DSP is helping us with new to brand sales. And I do think that it is helping us to upsell and get higher average order value. So like I said, in some cases, but I do agree with you that they are double dipping. Like don't look at the
Oh, they
DSP
are.
number, like, cause you get amazed, like, man, 20 ROAS on my DSP, like, you spend this and then just make 20x on that. Like
Yeah.
it looks great.
It's similar to what TikTok do, actually. I don't
Yeah.
know if you know, but like also how TikTok are measuring their success is also completely unreal. It's not happening. The only way to track it is by using tools like Hyros or something else to actually see where your sale is coming from. Because if you look at the TikTok metric, you're gonna see, oh, it's amazing. I'm getting all of these great results. And I have multiple friends with agencies that they used to run traffic for Meta, Google, and TikTok, and they stopped running traffic for TikTok because what happens is their clients see that the results are best uh,
Hmm.
in on TikTok, and they're like, okay, let's push only TikTok. And then my friends tell me it's almost impossible for me to explain to them that these sales are not real, and we should actually push more Meta or more Google, whatever. So they altogether stop doing it because at the end it's not working neither for them nor for their clients.
Yeah, I
It's
have to
just
tell
tricky.
you, TikTok has been so disappointing to me lately. I have
Mm,
one of my own brands. I've been trying. I have two brands. One of them we're trying to get into TikTok shop. Finally, we get in. Something goes wrong. They ask for more documentation. You go back and forth with them. Like even just getting it set up, I haven't even been able to get through that stage. And then the other
yeah.
brand that I have is a dog supplement, and they just completely banned that entire category. So I haven't even been able to. I'm trying to get on the bandwagon with everybody, everybody keeps talking about TikTok Shop, but even just like these months of going back and forth to get the setup done has been impossible for me. So I'm
I
really
feel
happy
it's
that
not easy.
yeah. Have you had any success on TikTok Shop?
We are just going to launch a brand on TikTok Shop now. We haven't tested it out firsthand yet, but we see other agencies and brands that we work with have a lot of success on TikTok Shop. And especially we have one brand that they initially started from China. Right now they're a global brand. They sell in the US, in UK, in Germany, and getting into other marketplaces, but still China is the biggest market for them. It's crazy how TikTok Shop works in China. I mean, they mentioned to me an influencer that was able for another brand to send to sell $1 billion in revenue over
No,
his TikTok shop online.
I don't believe it.
Insane, insane. This guy sold a rocket on his TikTok shop, like a rocket, like similar to whatever Elon Musk is doing, like like a proper rocket.
Wow.
Like he sold it directly through his TikTok shop. I mean, it's insane. Like the power of influencers and the power you can have. Because imagine China is such a big country. Like when there's 2 billion people, whatever. Imagine if out of those 2 billion people, if this guy's so popular that let's say 200 million people know about him. So out of these 200 million people, like 100,000 need to buy something, and this guy is a gazillionaire. You know what I mean?
That's so crazy. Yeah, the scale of it. I had good friend of mine went to the Canton Fair and he was telling me, I mean, like, the scale of that show. And just I had somebody that was on this podcast some months ago, and he was living in China for some years to work, but he's not natively Chinese. He was sent there. I think he was from Turkey, and anyhow, he started to learn the language and pick up the culture. And he said that social selling has been part of their culture for a really long time. Like the fact that we're picking it up through TikTok and kind of adopting it into the US culture or here. I mean, I'm in the US. I know you're in Bulgaria, but I mean, we're picking it up over here in a way where it's like, oh my God, this is working so well. And we're already like such a kind of e-commerce has already been kind of ingrained at this point. But over there, it's like a normal part of behavior, consumer behavior. It's like already more deeply ingrained in terms of just like these impulse buys to solve a solution. And a lot of entertainment is mixed with commerce. So we're just starting to really see that start to kind of uh, flourish right now. I know Amazon, they love to see what's working and try to make their own version of it. So they're trying to do their own sort of TikTok on their platform, but somehow I don't see that
Yeah.
really working out as well.
Yeah, so far it's not working out for most people, but still there's some success stories there. But it's never going to be TikTok, you know. How all of these platforms in the recent years they try to copy from each other. It's interesting. But what for example, Instagram got the stories idea from TikTok and some other things they're doing. But yeah, whatever. Some features work on one platform, they don't work on the other. Some could be actually mirrored, but yeah, they're stealing from each other like crazy. Like they
Yeah.
say, great artists steal, and this is what they preach for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to come by true innovation these days. It's really just those unicorns that come out of nowhere, like how TikTok kind of just showed up and they took the spotlight. But really, it's just the synthesis of things that are already until boom, boom, boom. Finally, you have something that's so much of that synthesis concentrated that
Mhm.
it's its own new thing. But anyhow, Amazon needs to get a piece of the pie. Same thing with
Yeah.
they're trying to launch this new kind of copycat of I believe it's Sheen or Timu, the low cost Amazon platform. I tried to get into it the other day, but I think they're still under construction. But that's going to be fun to watch because I'm coming from the early days of Amazon like yourself, and I saw that Amazon really has evolved into a place where you can get access to brands now. This is a place that people come for brand discovery. Whereas back in the day, it really was just like an aggregator of listings and people were just shopping for the cheapest price. So for me, it's interesting to see Amazon come back to that and try to open up another platform where it's just really about offering the cheapest price. Because to me, that's kind of
Yeah,
what they were anyway. It's only in the last maybe 3 to 5 years that they became not the place where you go for the cheapest price. I mean, they're still enforcing those rules. I'm sure you've seen like buy box loss. There's no
oh yeah,
competitor on the listing. Why? Why do they do it? It's because you raised your own price a little bit,
exactly.
and they're finding a UPC code somewhere on the internet and making a price match, and you lose your own buy box to yourself. So
Yeah,
they're still very much about the lowest price, but at least now you can sort of say, okay, you can build a brand on Amazon without needing to be the lowest price offer, as long as you're justifying it with the unique selling points and the quality. It wasn't always like that.
absolutely. I cannot agree more. But this is actually a great opportunity for high quality brands to stand out because people, purchase many of these high quality brands on Amazon as well as their website. And again, many high-end brands don't see it. They still believe that Amazon is a low-cost platform, and this is why they're not making the step on getting on the platform. I see it because I communicate with we come from an Amazon background and we believe that everybody knows about Amazon, but I go to all of these e-com events which are not Amazon related, and people literally ask me the question, are people making money on Amazon? Like, I'm like, yeah, they are. Because they sell really cool brands and they believe that their brands are not going to fit within the Amazon ecosystem. And honestly, for some brands, that is the case,
Yeah.
but for the majority, I'd say it could work really well. It's just different. It needs a different strategy. You need to step carefully and and be careful with all of Amazon's terms of services because again, I've been selling on Amazon for 7 years. One of my partners has been selling for 15 years, and Amazon is still a pain in the ass. I mean, like all of a sudden they suspend 5 listings, and they don't tell you why, and you have to figure it out yourself. And it seems that they forbid a set of keywords, but they're not sending a mass email a week upfront to
Hmm.
actually let the sellers know that they're doing that. They suspend the listings and then they tell you, oh, by the way, we forbid this set of keywords. And for some listings, this means hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we need to figure it out really quickly and remove those keywords in the listing, and then it's back up. It's just Amazon does stuff like that all the time that
All the
doesn't
time. And
really make
sometimes
sense.
they don't even tell you what the keywords are sometimes. They'll just
Yeah,
take it down and then you're like,
yeah,
why is it suspended? And they're giving you some kind of generic robotic
exactly.
response. And then it takes you 2 weeks just to find out what the keyword really is. And then you remove that one keyword or that one phrase somewhere in the middle of your description, right? You have to like find, you look for it, you find it, you eliminate it. And
Yeah,
then all of a
absolutely.
sudden your listing goes back. It's kind of wild. That's the game.
Honestly, many times the only thing that saves us is that we're really well connected in the space, and there is always someone with the same issue at the exact same time. So, whenever we have the issue, we just ask a bunch of people, and they're like, "Yeah, it happened to me, and I figured it out, and it's this." And we're like, "Okay, let's test it." Oh, it is actually that. But otherwise, you cannot know. You have to test a bunch of things.
That's the Amazon game. What are you gonna do? But it's like we were talking earlier about the difference between Shopify and Amazon, and it's the fees. To your question, do people make money on Amazon? I mean, if you can't make these margins, then you're not going to win. That's one thing. And with these new fees that Amazon is introducing right now, a lot of brands have been kicked out with the inbound placement fees. Now you have to pay a fee for having too little inventory, too much inventory. Depending on your category, if you have too many returns, you start paying per item. And all of these things, when you start adding it up, yeah, it's very possible that you don't make money on Amazon. So you have to make sure that your numbers match up. You have to make sure that your category works for you. So, for example, if I saw a really cool t-shirt company, I mean, launching an apparel brand on Amazon, probably pretty tough. Like I wouldn't I wouldn't sell a t-shirt. Like if a t-shirt company came to me and said, launch me on Amazon, I'd have a
No.
very hard time.
I'm
It's,
also I'm also not taking on clothing and apparel.
yeah.
Other categories that I'm avoiding are CBD.
Oh
CBD
yeah.
is
Oh yeah.
just so tough on Amazon. Bulky products as well. I wouldn't recommend like huge products, heavy, big products are not a good fit as well. And honestly, gadgets for the most part. There are some gadgets that would work out, but some of them, there are a lot of returns on gadgets, 20-30% returns sometimes. Really depends on
Huge.
what you're selling, but it's a very tough niche. Everything else flies, and I I prefer avoiding these few niches.
I mean, not to mention, I mean, to sell a gadget or any kind of like electronic like that, China is selling on Amazon themselves. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
not like back in the day when you can just, they didn't know how to do it, so they'd rather just wholesale it. They figured out the game probably better than us, a lot of them.
yeah.
And they have the best prices, of course. So to compete in that market, unless,
Sometimes I don't believe you're making profit, honestly. I've seen products that you cannot make profit on that. It's impossible. Like
yeah,
even if you're producing the product, if you estimate all the fees and everything, it's just impossible. I am 100% sure they're not making a profit on some of these products, and they are keeping them there just because they have some other game. Maybe someone else is paying them to be there and they're making money out of but I'm sure they're not making money on the product. And
I've
I've seen
heard
it many times.
I've heard things like there are really large Chinese sellers that are using Amazon to launder money into the US to buy real estate here. And there's some type of, they're using it as some type of a loophole or something. I don't know how valid that is. I mean, it's just a theory, but I'm
Well,
sure
it,
somebody's
it
gotten
it's
caught.
it sounds plausible for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Chinese are really pragmatic, and again, it's not a common, it's a widely spread fact, but right now, around 75% of Amazon is owned by Chinese. I mean, owned like 75% of the products that are on Amazon are actually directly being sold by Chinese sellers,
yeah, and
which
this is why
is,
right now I hear so many people getting crazy about the incoming potential tariffs. It's going to affect the market, but what are you going to do? Everybody has to play the game and adjust. It's in capitalism, it's survival of the fittest in a way. So if there's new tariffs, then we'll just pivot. There's lots of other ways to import or create domestically, or there's so many other manufacturers that are not even in Asia that have produce great quality product.
oh,
So
absolutely, more than ever, absolutely.
yeah, like the
Even in my own country, Bulgaria, you won't believe it, but for cosmetics and for clothing and apparel, it's actually a great place. Very competitive pricing, like and a much better quality than the Chinese stuff. I mean, in China you can get all kinds of quality, but
generally,
still, for
yeah.
generally and specifically for cosmetics, let's say, um, Bulgaria can provide some really good manufacturing.
I think Europe probably. I would argue Europe has the best quality in the world for many things. And I know
Yeah,
that Bulgaria, particularly, you guys are probably the number one exporter of rose, right?
we are. One is rose, and also what was that purple flower called? I forget.
Hmm. Not sure about that one, but
Oli Oli Olivander, I think it is.
oh, lavender is it? Okay,
Lavender,
yeah,
lavender, lavender, lavender. Yeah, we are the biggest exporter of lavender in Europe, potentially in the world. I'm not sure, but in Europe for sure.
very cool. I know
It's
lavender is loves dryness, so not exactly. I've never been to Bulgaria, but I mean, look at what happened. Like if you look at the story of like some of these like Gucci or like handbag or like leather companies that started out like in Italy, and how that's changed, and now a lot of so much of it is manufactured in China. But I think
yeah.
when you think of quality, Europe comes up. So work with Europeans to, I get that question a lot, where should I manufacture if I'm not going to manufacture in China? I know Mexico is really up and coming. I know Europe is a great place. There's
Yeah.
other parts of Asia.
Honestly, depends on the niche. If you're in the supplements niche, you can even manufacture in the US,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's still gonna you're still gonna get pretty good pricing, for supplements specifically, not for all kinds of stuff, but supplements, easily.
But the funny thing is that even if you're manufacturing supplements in the US, they're getting a lot of their raw components from elsewhere.
Yeah,
Like
correct.
it's
They are.
but you
All of
do
them,
yeah,
pretty much.
pretty much, but you do avoid a lot of the regulation because if you're going to if you're going to import the finished product into the US, you have to provide so much paperwork and
Mhm.
documentation that needs to be translated from wherever you're bringing it in. It's going to end up taking you so much less time and probably the same price with the overseas shipping to just
Exactly.
produce it domestically. So you're definitely right about that. I will,
And
however,
liquids as well.
and
Liquids are also tricky because you're moving some heavy objects with liquids from one part of the world to the other. It's getting more and more expensive to do that.
I will, however, say that working with Europeans, I've tried it and I have not been successful because European
I
manufacturers they might make great stuff, but their communication is not on the level
yeah,
that you would. If you're used to
I
working with
agree.
Chinese suppliers,
I
don't be surprised.
I agree. That's why, I prefer working with Americans in general and English-speaking countries. I won't lie, because Europeans are really hard to work with in general. They take much more time. They, are difficult to communicate with, and they have trust issues. It's
Yeah.
just, much easier to work with English-speaking countries.
Some years back, I went to it was kind of a conference, but a convention, like all the different suppliers across Europe were coming. It was in Bologna in Italy.
Mm.
And I made lots of great contacts there. This was in 2016 or 17. I made lots of great contacts. I reached out to all of them that I really liked. We shared the catalogs and made all these discussions at the show. And I swear, like most of them didn't respond, or they responded and like you tried to order samples and they just never send the samples. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, why do you even show up at the show? And it was just like across the board, it was like that. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just find stuff somewhere else. But I know that Mexico right now is really interesting because they're located, you don't have to cross any huge bodies of water,
Mm.
and they produce great stuff, and the infrastructure is improving. Costs are really great. So I think that, I mean, I would be surprised if you told me that 5 years ago, but I think that that might be really close runner up to China coming pretty soon, if not already.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Hristo, it was great chatting with you, man. I think we're at time here. I think we shared a lot of good nuggets of gold. Any place that people can find you, reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. They could go on our website, hyperzone.io. That's hyperzon.io. They can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, Christo Arakliev, or Instagram. They can find me. You can put my handle, I guess. And afterwards in the notes. And yeah, I mean, whoever would like to connect, I'll be happy.
Awesome. Thanks again, Hristo. Thanks everybody for watching. See you in the next
Thank you,
one.
Pasha. See you soon, man. Bye.
See you. Bye.